stressed out. Why am I?
No reason to get stressed
Too
out.
late to turn around now. Good evening, Melrosians the world over. I'm Tom Catalini.
I'm Sam Hammer.
And I'm Tom Shampoo.
And this is Let's Talk Melrose. Melrose, everyone's favorite show where Melrosians talk to Melrosians about Melrose. Where is Jenny Electric this week? She's missing. There's only three squares.
We're down a person. Yeah, no kidding. Top square for the win.
I don't know. She's probably drinking margaritas or martinis somewhere, not watching begrudgingly. And
I'm setting up a meeting with HR about the vacation policy. I feel like it's unevenly applied to this. It's
absolutely unevenly applied. It is. Someone needs to step up and say something. I'm glad you want to do that, Tom.
Although last week I was missing because I went to the Stones, so I got my new Stones T-shirt.
Nice.
And I didn't go for the expensive official merchandise when there's a guy in the backpack on the sidewalk selling them for $20. So
that's exactly right. Who needs copyright laws? Come on.
I know, and it's sad to admit that as somebody who creates intellectual property right here on this show, it should be a little bit more protective of that.
I don't know. Get the merch out.
Otherwise,
is what I say.
Otherwise, someone's going to create a new show called "Hey, Let's Talk Melrose." So it's up to you.
You know what? I did some Googling, and I think Mick and the boys are okay without my merch.
Your $20.
I think they're going to make it.
They'll be all right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking
they're not even drawing on retirement plans yet. They're still out there generating the money.
No, they have to withdraw their IRA at 75.
At a certain age, right? Yeah.
Just that up. This is not financial advice. But speaking about just making it, we're going to just make it tonight. But thankfully, we have two amazing guests. Amy and Christopher Robinson are in the house. And they are, there's an air horn coming.
There we go.
Not too many air horns. We have to have the dudes come back over. But yes, they're in the house. They're like one of my favorite phenomenal couples in Melrose. So I'm so excited for you guys to meet them. And then a quick shout out to Ma and Pa Top Fan Dugan, who are now watching. They don't have to do long distance dialing in on their modem tonight to watch the show. So
are they watching from within 02176?
They are.
I saw them the other day, and now they're still in town. Yeah, how are you? So not to be confused with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who's coming next month to the wrestling event.
The wrestling world is a buzz.
This is Dugan we're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, the wrestling world is a buzz that Hacksaw Jim Duggan is coming to Melrose. People are lining up in the streets already, camping out in tents, waiting for this thing to happen.
And then we're coming off of Indigenous Peoples Day weekend and celebration, officially Melrose, and our former guest and favorite historian Jim Bennett was the one kind of going through the history of Indigenous peoples in Melrose, and he was phenomenal.
Fantastic.
Tom, Tom Shampoo and Linda ran down with Cooper to catch some of it, but Jim is a treasure to this community, and he was so good. So Chris and Amy were there as well. So we'll hear, get their take on that.
Well, I just know he's knowledgeable and presents it well. Folks look back to episode 64 of LTMM or whatever one it is. I'm making that up. But he was a previous guest on here, and it was just he knows his stuff and conveys it well. And you don't often have that combination, so that's nice.
He did a really great job here on the show, as you pointed out, to our audience. But yesterday actually, his audience were all under 10 or 12 years old, so it's all kids who were there, and he was presenting the history of L Pond and the region, the Melrose, the greater Melrose region, over 400 years or longer, to kids, and he did a phenomenal job. He's so good at storytelling, sharing information, making it accessible for people,
interactive.
interactive. Yeah, he's good. His hands are moving. He's always just got something really interesting going on. So
Cool.
You would have been impressed. It was so good. He's so good.
Yeah, and I'm difficult to impress, let's just say. But
I'm still working on it myself.
Hey, so Sam, like top 2 or 3 bullet points, revelations from the talk. Anything you could share with the viewers, or do we have to go watch into the MMTV archives? Anything earth-shattering?
I think I go to the MMTV archives for all factual information. But I actually walked over to Chris and Amy and joked that Jim's so good at explaining things to children. I think he should go in and teach sex education to our elementary school kids.
Wow, look at that.
He's that. Yeah, I think he's that good.
Why? What aren't they getting that he would help provide? Do I want to answer this question?
I have no idea yet, but he's very kind and very captivating. So.
I want to answer Tom's question from my perspective. I got there late, as Sam pointed out. Linda and I got there a little bit late. But the thing that I was impressed by was he was pointing to the buildings along Main Street from Elk Pond. And was saying, what do you notice about the buildings to the kids? They're made of wood. And they said, yes. So Europeans, when they came over here, lived differently on the land than the native people who lived there already. So wood was one example. They had to cut down all the trees to build wooden houses that were permanent structures. And that's a different way to live on the land than people previous to that. So I think the kids really understood what he was pointing out and how he was making a point to look at the differences between the way people live and use the land around them. So it was interesting to me.
Yeah, he was very yeah.
Tom Shampoo retains information.
one nugget
to sex education. You know what I learned? What I learned is I think he'd be a good sex education teacher.
But one thing that was really poignant was he was talking about Elk Pond specifically and the work that was done. But he said, there were acres and acres around Elk Pond that were. He said, what was not there before? Like what did they not have there before? And he meant like traffic and buildings and cars. And I was like, there was none of us there. We were not there back then. So we'll talk more about that with our guests. But it's time for the news.
Yes, it is.
For the love of God.
Boom.
Oh my God. So all of our news today is thanks to Facebook and Mayor Paul Broder's newsfeed. Thank you. Shout out. So are you a Melrose resident who drives a vehicle? You can help plan the city's future infrastructure and possibly win a $50 Shop Melrose gift card. So have you guys taken this yet?
I saw this. I saw this, and I just think it's odd. Are you a Melrose resident who drives a vehicle? That's almost every resident. And then I'm always leery of these $50 things. Like if I have a chance, if I have a 1 in a gazillion chance, I don't know if I want to get involved in the survey. How long is the survey? Did you take it, Sam?
I'm taking it right now. It's mostly about.
We're doing a show
live on the show. Hang on, I'll answer your question in 3 minutes. I'm taking a survey right now.
She's gone. She's back.
There we go.
It seems like it's mostly about electrical vehicle infrastructure and what type of vehicle you'd buy and how far you drive. So I think it's good because now you've seen those boxes where you kind of somehow get the magical electrical device to your car. So it's figuring out more of that.
Yeah.
I saw one of those being used, by the way, very quickly in Melrose. It's the one that's by the baseball field, the high school, and in that corner. And there it is up top. And somebody pulled up and they had that thing down and plugged into their car. And I was very happy to see it.
I don't get the gimmick. Why does it have to be up high and come down? Isn't that a waste of electricity to make the thing go up and down? Do you know what the point is?
Yeah, it's complicated, Tom. You wouldn't understand it, so I'm
yeah. All
right. We're gonna say welcome to Melrose to Giselle, who is the new police department. What?
I don't know what's happening
Giselle,
right now.
That's a reference to the dog because she smells for explosives.
That's true.
Oh, that is true. You're right.
Oh my God, I was enhancing.
Wait, I was expecting a
story.
I was expecting a bark,
Giselle,
sound effect. Or something.
Oh well, yeah.
It's buried somewhere.
So anyway, here's the article on her.
All right, yeah. This is a police dog.
Yeah.
Yes.
Police dog.
So we're happy to have her. The more women on the police force, the better.
Hey, have our guests canceled their booking yet?
I know they've left. They've like shut it down. Okay. Also, since I'm just gonna keep rolling, unless somebody else wants to do a drum roll, please.
Go.
Okay.
Go. Yeah, keep going.
Oh my gosh! I just saw that next Tuesday evening, October 19th at 6 p.m., the high school marching band is going to it's citywide band night. So they mostly want kids. I guess I should put this in here, grades 3 through 8, I think. But you can go march on the field with the band.
Cool.
Like, how cool is that?
Very cool.
So we should try to get down there. It's at 6 before the show, and maybe see if we can get on the field and do some marching.
Well,
nice, Rick.
I don't know, because next week we're going to be very busy. We didn't say it at the top of the hour, but this is episode 99. We're going triple digits next week, and we've got a lot of special things planned for the show, of course, and we're going to leave it as a surprise. But I'm not sure if we're going to have time to squeeze in a quick march on the field before the show starts. But maybe, you never know.
We'll have to see. There's a lot of potential.
Yes, it's going to be multimedia.
Okay.
Multimodal.
Time to bring on our guests before we go.
Oh, wait, there's one more thing.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, yes, and then we're going to pivot. We're going to transition right in. So get ready, you guys. So there was an email that went around today from the Energy Commission, which is very interesting, to ask folks to take the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion survey, which I have done. I think I don't know if you guys have done it yet. It closes October 18th. It's pretty interesting, like the questions that they ask and, how they ask them. So this is another survey that I should take.
Surveys in this town. It's a little bit overwhelming, I'm going to say.
Well, I mean, I think your input is valued.
Where does it go? Who's analyzing this? Is it as good as the LTMM data analytics team? I'm going to get them to do a FOIA request, and we're going to reanalyze this data. Get to the bottom of things.
I feel like Steve Koczela somehow is involved in all his data collection somewhere. So,
right,
and his polls, local polls. All right, but without further ado, it is. So while they unmute themselves, Lego. While they unmute themselves, I'm just going to introduce my friends, my peers at the Lincoln School, and like the coolest couple in town, Chris and Amy Robinson. It's so true. How are you? Thank you for coming.
We're parents. What do you mean? Do you want to really
fluffing?
know?
Are you fluffing at this? The fluff had to happen beforehand.
I think it's called the zhuzhing.
The zhuzhing. Yeah.
Not in Tom's industry, and I'm not telling which Tom.
We do a little Spike Jones throwback makeup.
Well, thanks for being here. So,
welcome.
You guys have a lot of facets to you, but yeah, it's true. Multifaceted.
Yeah.
You are both ASL interpreters.
Translation.
Yeah. Well, speaking of translation, you're both ASL interpreters, which is pretty darn cool. And you said that was a small community, and you kind of all know each other. But it seems like
we marry each other too.
Sometimes you marry each other. But it seems like in Melrose, there's a per capita high density of ASL interpreters in town, including Kim Sampson and Audrey Koczela and others. So what's that about? Why are you coming here? What's going on?
Lack of imagination, I think. We could say real estate, but let's not go there. We don't have that much time. But access to the Orange Line, I guess.
I don't know. I'm thinking if we build it, they will come.
There you go.
People will come.
That's the thing with the deaf community and American Sign Language communities. There's no ethnic look. There's no hairstyle. There's no cultural garb. When you're talking about disability, there's no wheelchair. There's no white cane. It's just walking around with language, and the language doesn't appear until you invoke it, So if you buy a new car, then all of a sudden you see, wow, everybody's driving the same car that I'm in. You know, when Amy and I are just talking out in the middle of a space, then all the other hands start flying. So we kind of red flag ourselves.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I hear you also do some sideline soccer gossip in ASL as well with some of the other stuff. Yep.
we were talking about you, so
no, you were not. No.
Yeah. So I was fortunate to live with my grandmother in like an in-law apartment behind us, and she's from Lithuania. My mother spoke Lithuanian, and then they could do right in front of me. They could say whatever they wanted, and I wouldn't know what they were talking about. So there are some advantages to having a second language in play.
It's also great when it's silent.
Oh yeah.
The language is silent, so you don't have to like scream at your kid across the street to get back over here, where you can just sign to them and nobody has to, call DSS. Nice.
Or more often than not, when I'm leaving Whole Foods and inadvertently I've forgotten, the thing that I went in there for, and she's signing to me right through the store window as I'm walking, to the window. Right. That's the other thing, it doesn't have to be a text message, whatever I needed to get. Okay, good. I can go back in and get whatever the thing was that I was supposed to get.
That's the old-fashioned text message.
Yeah.
So what sorts of like things do you end up signing for, or industries or people, or what is kind of the most fascinating things you've done?
This is a David Copperfield moment.
We do a lot of theater. That's the thing that we are most passionate about, but we also have our day jobs where Chris works at BU and I am a freelance interpreter, and I do a lot of science, biochemistry, stuff like that I like. But anyway, regarding theater, Chris had signed us up to interpret for David Copperfield, not the magician, but I did not know that. Yeah, the Dickens classic.
Oh.
So while he was preparing this whole thing, while he was preparing this whole thing, he's on the phone talking to the coordinator. They want to make sure that he's got everything. And he said, yeah, I've got the tapes. I've got the script. And in my head, I'm going, why does the magician really need the script and the tapes and everything? We're probably going to go and see the show. And good, I'll interpret for the woman that gets sawed in half.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, right. He hangs up the phone and he says, I said, I don't understand why the magician you're having all of this material. And he goes, not the magician, the Dickens classic. And I went,
naturally.
No. I said, well, kind of already signed up for it.
Yeah, we're in it. We're in it deep.
We're in it.
Right.
Yeah, 3-hour show, 3-hour drive to Vermont. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah. When
and no magic.
And
no
magic. Well,
sorry.
We don't know. We don't want to get too personal, Tom. We don't want to make assumptions here.
So fast forward.
Yeah. So anyway, he did that. I said, never do that to me again. And I'd say it was probably 2 years later that I was interpreting Annie, I think at the Wang, and the house manager came to the team of interpreters and said, does anybody want to interpret for David Copperfield? I said, the magician? She said, yes. I said, yes.
Yeah.
There you go. You had it coming. You had it coming to you. Good for you.
And now on my resume, it says David Copperfield in parentheses. Yeah, both.
Yeah.
Right. So I have a question for you. So when you're doing a play like that or a show like that, is there one person interpreting for every actor, actress, or is there like how many people are on that team of interpreters?
Wow. So it's a dissertation, but the cliff notes of it is this. Typically, if you're going to go, to Broadway in Boston or to the Greater Boston stage, you may see 3 sign language interpreters at most. And we're plugged in as an accommodation. Because there may be some deaf folks or family that have asked, for sign language interpreters to be there. And sometimes they put it into the programming, but that's the accommodation thing. And so you get 3 of us. So we're, literally dividing up, characters in our head using theater techniques as well as aspects of the language to help the deaf audience distinguish who's who. But we do that, all the time when Amy's interpreting for classes. It's a graduate course, and it's a lab and there's discussion back and forth. Well, we have to represent every student in there, identity, inflection, accent, all that stuff. So it's a lot of
Oh yeah, I bet. Wow.
real quick. But it's fun. It's fun stuff.
Yeah.
Keeps us on our toes.
All right, so I got to ask Chris, what are you sorting through over there that's keeping you busy while we're on live
did
on
you
the
hear
air?
all that? Yeah.
No, it's not a bother. Don't worry about it. But you do have us curious about what is being sifted through.
Yeah, it's part of my work release program. No, not really. But so the fun thing that I get to do at BU, believe me, higher ed pays people for this, is I work in disability and access services. And let's be real, it's a compliance entity. You got judicial affairs and all disability services, making sure that a student gets their accommodation. But sometimes there's a little bit of friction between the intention of the faculty. The faculty member may have papyrus and slate and chalk and they want to do things one way, but that's not accessible to the blind student. How do you not come in there with a hammer with no insult intended, to convince the faculty member to modify how they're presenting the course without them feeling compromised? I legit use Lego to take away the stigma about disability, the stigma about content being compromised. And I use Lego to help faculty and students think about, well, we're transmitting the same content, but how we configure the content can alter. It could scale. And I have conversations with faculty that way. Sometimes faculty, go way meta, way, Socratic, and students who have disabilities have a lot of stress on them, and they're freshmen, and they're trying to navigate higher ed, and they're in Zoom, and they have an anxiety disorder. How do we leverage the vocabulary? Lego, legit. Wow. So tomorrow I'm bringing Lego to a mental health fair at on campus on Marsh Plaza, and having some conversations about making modifications to access the same content.
Damn,
that's fantastic. Yeah.
And are you also by any chance building a Millennium Falcon replica at the same time?
We're building our summer home.
Yeah.
124th.
Those folks get beaucoup money. I wish I had the stamina. Those folks are really type A. I'm not quite there yet. I aspire, but I'm not quite there.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But so what do you do physically with the Legos to help that conversation or to facilitate those things?
I just want to say, he probably won't say it, but he's also a Lego Serious Play facilitator. They take a certain amount of hour. You do a certain amount of hour coursework.
Yeah. So here's what we do with the Lego, and I am a certified Lego Series Play facilitator. That's an actual thing.
Cool.
You ever been in those meetings where the boss says, I want XYZ done, here's the question, who's going to solve it? And the ambitious person or the charismatic person always gets, their word in every while, and then everybody else is anchored to that. They have to respond.
Yeah, Sam's the one who does that. Sam's the charismatic one who speaks first and takes over the whole thing. But yeah, go ahead.
There's always one. And fun fact, she has my Lego. So we'll be seeing you on the playground. Yeah.
She can keep it. She can keep it.
Okay. I'm like possessed about my Lego. What I do in a space is what some of the Lego CEO did back then when Lego Serious Play emerged. And it's essentially this. You put out a question, a problem that needs to be solved, something ambiguous, and you have everyone build in metaphor their answer. Shut up, nobody say anything, build the response. So literally and figuratively, all answers are on the table. A person can make a reference to their idea, and no one idea has been contaminated or anchored by the previous person, and you don't have the one person hogging up everything, because you can, in a measurable way, see how many ideas are left on the table and say, I want to know about this idea. Less criticism, less, I don't like you, I don't like you, and you're not a CEO, and then I'm a mid-level person. We talk about the value of the idea.
Nice.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's incredible. It really is. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we love hearing about. That I didn't know this stuff even existed, and it's fantastic to hear more about the specifics of how this works and what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
It's really segued nicely into the DEI space. You know, Sam and I have been talking quite a bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and let's be clear, the last 2 years have been exponentially difficult in terms of having these kind of conversations: race, gender, equity.
Yeah.
And because of the demand, let's be real, there are a lot of little pop-up people who are, let me run a DEI workshop for you, and you Google this and there's a LinkedIn presentation about it. When it comes down to it, how do we have substantive conversations like what we experienced with Jim with the Indigenous presentation? How do we have conversations like that where a person can hold your attention, where the kids don't feel like this is boring and the adults are engaged as well?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get somebody to facilitate that kind of conversation? And yeah, we're talking about Jim, but we're also talking about the content. I mean, even Tom, you remembered some key points, right? So,
I did too.
but we expect you to remember stuff, right, Tom? We're still working on Tom.
But to your point,
that's the kind of facilitation. I think that's what kind of value I want to bring to these kind of conversations, to leverage this idea of intimidation and expertise, to have some good old-fashioned conversations. We can disagree about things, but at least I know what idea and perspective you have on the table, and I have mine on the table. And we walk away knowing a little bit more.
So, and you've been doing a lot of that work also pretty locally. We were in a Zoom last week together, specifically for DEI representatives from the school PTOs and how to create conversations and safe spaces for that. So thank you for doing that. I think there were 4 of us from Lincoln on that call. So I'll defer. But you're doing a lot of that work here, and you're also on our enrichment curriculum team as well. So how do you see all of that kind of transcending into our school system and elementary specifically?
And the city too, though, but yeah.
And the city, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of hope. I do have hope. This is one concrete example, and we hope this develops into something substantive. Atlantic Awning Company, they're right on Franklin, right around the corner next to the train track. Atlantic Awning Company, you walk around the neighborhood, you drive all over the neighborhood, you see these awnings. A lot of them are from that particular company. Same regard, I'm having a conversation with the PTO in Richmond about bringing in this local, actually it's from Plymouth, Indigenous artist, Native American artist from the Plymouth area. We've seen some of his colleagues in Plymouth when Amy and I go down there every year to Plymouth for the National Day of Mourning. And he's going to work with us first as a pilot within a school, and then probably expand it into Melrose, probably working with Chris Rodolico, Follow Your Art, and all those names to do this. Atlantic Awning, whenever they're making awnings, there's all that leftover stuff. They got to cut it just a certain size. Well, what do you do with that stuff? Where does it go, right? Then you got relationships with the DPW, trash stuff. Where does it go? We're going to bring in Indigenous values and how we, with Q Jim, right? How do we use and consume materials, not just nostalgically refer to the good old days of corn and indigenous people in the land, not just that, but bring it into a contemporary space. How do we reuse and how do we measure how we consume? And hopefully beyond just indigenous values, but it'll become Melrose values about just how do we use stuff? How do we repurpose stuff? We're going to bring that into a science curriculum based perspective, art in terms of the kids using materials to beautify spaces, as opposed to, we have to do a pickup trash day. What if we flip that vocabulary around? It's a beautification day, so we can see opportunity in all the materials to beautify space. So that's the one that we're triangulating on to
I
see
love that
DEI become something really practical and contemporary.
Wow.
I love that. Yeah, and you're on not another shout out. You're on the enrichment team with my neighbor across the street, Susan Barani, wife of top fan Scott. So thanks for doing that. I feel so lucky to have you not only on this, obviously doing enrichment, but like in my community. But I do want to talk about the first time I met you.
Sitting down. I brought in my support. Go ahead. Give me all you got. Bring it.
So I remember going to my first Temple 80s party, and there was a photo booth, a photo room, and there were Tom Shampoo, you were probably there.
I was there, yeah.
And there was,
I was there.
so there was this captivating, energetic, just infectious, like addictive person behind the camera that I could not even pay attention to posing. You were I felt like I should have turned the camera right around on you. So you were the photographer, and that's the first time you made a moment in my mind. And the fact that I see you like all the time now is just the coolest. So
that's so cool. I probably still have that in Google Photos, so maybe the next episode that might be one of the ones you bring in. Bam, in 80s, together, right. Reuse and repurpose.
But you both are Temple people. You're Temple members as well, which is pretty phenomenal.
That's Shalom and the challenging racism, the anti-racism task force with the Temple as well, and both of our backgrounds. Just fun fact and how we identify, and that I'm an African American man from Southern Louisiana. She's Jewish American woman from Worcester. And we were
He's got it. It's Worcester.
Yeah, Worcester. Got to put your Worcester in there. Shout out. We were privileged to renew our vows. We got married July 7th, 2007. We were doing the 7-7 thing. We were one of those, right? And there was a Life is Good festival in Fenway Park that day. We timed it just perfect. The Gin Blossoms were performing. So the Gin Blossoms were essentially our wedding band, right?
Wow. Nice.
Fast forward, we celebrate our anniversary in the Museum of African American History and Culture, the A.B.L. Smith School adjacent to it. And the fun fact is, from 1904 to 1974, the A.B.L. Smith School, the Museum of African American History and Culture, was a temple. So we renewed our vows by jumping the broom in the current African American History Museum. So a little bit of me, a little bit of AIM there.
Nice. That's fantastic.
Yeah, 888. That was the year later. So we bring that to Melrose. We bring that to the Temple community. But we're also given a lot. The last 2 years was tough for specifically our identities, right? You folks here, Sam, our Temple community was really wonderful and support all our loss too. There was loss, a lot of difficult stuff, but we're still together, which is especially the reason why I showed up tonight, together.
So that's some number of years back to 2007, and you guys come from two different places. How did you end up in Melrose? And how long have you been here?
Ooh, rent. No,
it's not meant to be a difficult question.
Where I was in Stoneham, and that was my bachelor pad, and Amy was done with it. I had all my Star Wars action figures still lined up.
I was right about the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, it's full circle. Not a hard read. Put it all right out there. And she was over it. And she says, yeah, we got to get out of this space here. And she's the hunter. And, she was kind of knocking on doors and got us on Willow Street way back in the day. And now we're a little bit further up the road from Willow Street. But we've been in Melrose going on 10 years now.
It is 10.
Yeah, 10 years. And we got roots now.
All right.
Yes, for life.
It's a great place. And we're the richer for it, for having you guys have roots here. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You always know where you can find some Lego.
Yeah, there you go.
Creating value.
Now, I got those on Buy Nothing. Do I have to return them? What's going on here?
No. It's we geotagged them, so we always know where you are.
I told Amy if you could find, I think 8 6 or 8 more hinges, we will gift you a thing.
I'm working on it. I'm in the room. Sure thing.
Okay. We might bring one in tomorrow and for Lyric to have because it's just way too cool. All right. I think I hit on. Is there anything else? But I don't know.
Well, there's one question from the audience, or you could validate this given your background. Is the plural of Lego, is it in fact Lego?
Yes. Good. Yes, Lego. So, you think about Kleenex and all these brands,
Yes.
There is no such thing, we're talking about the company, there's no such thing as Legos. It is Lego bricks, Lego plates, Lego minifigures, Lego Technic.
There's not even such thing as Lego.
No. Yes.
Lego My Ego is just what it is.
Yeah, it's just another thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I also saw you met some Lego masters, or you met a Lego master 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
We met 4. Zach and the 2 the father son team there.
Nestor and Manny from season 1.
Yeah, season 1. Yeah, right. So season 1, 2, and 3. Lego masters there. I'm in touch with one of them too. They might jump on board with the whole Lego master. Yeah, it was Corey. Yeah, they might jump on board with the whole Lego series play approach. There's a lot of the Lego master candidates or participants who are now becoming STEM educators and using Lego to enter the education space that way. Yeah. But we can enter higher ed, and I'm having some conversations with them to facilitate some basic conversations, to get past the rhetoric.
So here's the question about, speaking of higher ed, is there a Lego university? Like there should be, it seems like there'd be a place where they could do all this work and teach people to become masters or whatever else. Is there a place like that or no?
So Denmark. Denmark. So anything branded Lego education, there is a pedagogical approach in terms of actually training teachers, so you can get your PD, your professional development units and credits with an association with a Lego company, getting credits, certification. Yeah. So that's the umbrella of Lego. That's legit.
But not an actual destination where you can go get a degree from Lego University.
See, that's the thing about Lego. They know better than to tether anything to any geographical place. Unlike us with the brick and mortar, the hollowed halls and ivory. We see how that's working out.
Right. It's just like this show here. We're sort of, it's Melrose, but we're untethered. We are worldwide. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, MMTV. We're around the globe. People are watching from all over the place. And we're so glad to have you.
Some of us are more untethered than other people, but that's a different story.
And then you walk into my office and disability.
And there it is. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I will see you in the morning at the latest. You guys are just some of the coolest cats in town. So thank you for coming on.
Great
Thank you, Sam.
Great to have you on.
Yeah.
Love
so
good.
Before you hang up, this happened last week. Before you hang up, we do a song at the end. I'm sure you've seen it.
I forgot about
Dance it off.
But we do require some dancing.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, thanks for doing the show, and we'll see you around town.
See you around town.
Cool.